everybody, and welcome to another episode of Nerds with Friends. My name is Cody Leach, and as always, I'm joined by Christian Garcia.
What's up?
What's up, dog?
If you guys hear like coughing or sneezing off, like to the side, that's producer Rick. He's dying.
Got a little bit of the allergies going on right now, because in San Francisco, there it is. In San Francisco, we have like 2 weeks out of the year where it's like summertime, springtime, and they just cram it in real quick. So we are experiencing that now.
It's early. I feel like it's usually like winter when that shit happens.
Yeah, I feel like normally it's like at least in October is when we get our summertime. So hopefully it gets back to our normal 62 degrees constantly. And that's why I enjoy living here. It's just I never have to. It's always the same temperature. You just get acclimated and it's good.
Just gotta have a t-shirt and a jacket.
Yeah,
because you never know.
Not even a jacket, like a sweater. Yeah,
I think that's because we're used to it. It's funny, like when we get.
I don't even wear those. I just walk around in a t-shirt and shorts like 24/7.
I think it's funny, like when we get tourists and they're like wearing like jackets.
Oh my
god! I'm in my shirt. Aren't you cold? Like no.
They look like they're about to climb Everest.
Yeah, it's like no.
And we're like,
this is our heat.
I just walk by in sunglasses and a tank top. What's happening? You guys must be from out of town. Thank you guys for liking and subscribing. We do appreciate that. Make sure if you're watching on YouTube, you hit a little thumbs up and the subscribe button with the little bell icon so you're notified when new videos come out. If you're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Audible, any of those podcasting avenues, just make sure you follow or subscribe, whatever the platform calls for. We do appreciate that. And if you'd like to support the show, make sure to check out patreon.com/nerdswithfriends. That's where you can give us a few little shekels a month and help support the show and get some cool benefits for you as well. We do appreciate that.
The money.
The money. Yes. This week's episode, we're going to be talking about disappointing video games. This is kind of a trend we've been noticing recently. So more on that after our little break. Before we do that, let's do some nerdy confessions, where we confess the things that make us nerds. Christian, give me a nerdy confession.
My nerdy confession. Rick, I know if you're listening, I'm going to fuck up What If, so I apologize. And Cody off air said he didn't care.
I don't give a shit. I'm over What If. What if we got some new live action Marvel content? That's my What If that I want.
Well, the Hawkeye is coming up.
It's coming out in December.
Eternals
is next. Eternals is in like a couple weeks, and then Venom's this weekend.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I'm
Venom,
gonna watch
I don't give
Venom.
a shit about.
I'll
watch it, but I don't care.
Yeah. I'm curious because in the background, one of the trailers, they have a Spider-Man. I don't know if it's a poster or something, and it looks like maybe it's from the Tobey Maguire Spider-Mans. Mm-hmm. I'm curious about that, but outside of that, whatever.
Wasn't that what they had in Morbius too? Because they had a poster.
Or maybe it was Morbius. I don't know.
Oh, it definitely was. If you didn't see the Venom thing, yeah, Morbius. He walks by a poster and it says like, I don't know,
guilty,
hero or murderer or whatever, and it's the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man.
So then maybe I got two possible shitty movies confused.
When's Morbius coming out?
I don't know.
Never. They're just like, forget it. Vampires around. You get it.
It's a living vampire, so it's different.
I mean,
so anyway,
they're all living.
No, the other ones are undead.
Same diff.
Or deadish. Whatever. Anyway, nerdy confession. What If? Probably my second favorite episode. It was close to the Doctor Strange one.
Yeah.
And I don't remember if I said this on the show, but I definitely told Cody off air. I think what they're calling Supreme Doctor Strange is going to end up being Morpheus. Like, I really think they're going to take that route.
You mean Mephisto, not Morpheus.
I'm sorry, Mephisto. Anyway.
Take the blue pill. Yeah. What? Doctor Strange? Are you in the Matrix this whole time?
I got my M characters messed up. No, I really think it's going to end up being Mephisto.
Mephisto, yeah.
Because, I mean, I don't see them introducing him as, like...
as the devil.
As the devil.
Right.
Or I think it'd be kind of whack if they just made him, like, an alien or whatever, which I hope...
Like an interdimensional deity or...
Yeah, which they kind of did with Dormammu, which I was fine with.
Yeah.
But I really think that they're going to do that with that Doctor Strange.
That would be cool.
So, now, Cody was saying that What If doesn't really matter in the MCU, which was it Kevin Feige said that it would matter.
Yeah, but he's also a sneaky bastard.
That's true, but I think this one episode that I'm going to ruin for Cody and everyone who, this would be a week that it came out, I'm not ruining it for anyone. So it's what if Ultron had won, and he ends up getting all the Infinity Stones.
Oh, so it was the end of the last episode.
Which is why I think how they're going to cross over a bunch of stuff.
Mm.
So the only thing that was kind of whack is how he got them. That I won't ruin for you. You can watch it, and then you can be disappointed yourself. So he's going around. He basically did it on that universe, destroyed everything which he created, quote unquote, his version of peace. There's no conflict because there's no fucking aliens.
Yeah.
And then he notices that the Watcher is actually watching him. So he actually crashes through in the in-between dimensions. And they actually fight. And they crash through multiple dimensions.
Nice.
Yeah, so I don't know if they're planning on making this Ultron cross over into the MCU, which is a possibility now that he can actually cross over stuff. But I think this episode is actually going to be, they have to continue what had happened at the end of this one. They have to do one more episode, unless they wait till season 2. But they totally left it where, like all the other episodes, it's kind of open-ended or there's no real answer. I really think that everything is not by accident or like, I think this would be a great, silly story. No, I think all of them are going to have a lot of meaning, and I think everything's going to cross over.
Well, I mean, I agree that there are definitely a lot of cliffhangers in this What If series, and it's already renewed for season 2. So I'm sure anything that doesn't get resolved in this season will be resolved in the next one. Because we had like Thanos in Wakanda in one of them, zombie Thanos, I should say, in Wakanda, and then there was like there was Agent Carter, Captain Carter, and the squid monster from the Red Skull, that squid monster has shown up in multiple episodes.
Doctor Strange, the Supreme Doctor Strange absorbed him, didn't he?
Right,
that was
exactly. So that could be leading to something. Plus, she's now in modern days too, when all the Avengers get killed and stuff. So it's like there's going to be crossover happening. I would be very surprised if any of this turned up in the actual movies.
I think even like in, maybe not in No Way Home, but in the Doctor Strange movie, maybe as he's crossing over to different, or he's watching different multiverses, I feel like they might show some hints of what was on the show.
Yeah, I think if anything happens, that'll be kind of the maximum. Also, Watu, the Watcher showing up. Like, I could see that, and he'd be like, that's why this counts. I'm like, okay, it's one character that we already knew is out there. So I'd be very surprised if, like, Ultron shows up, seeing as he was the least popular in the worst Avengers movie. You know what I mean? Even though I liked James Spader as Ultron, I thought he was good.
Now, this episode did one great thing that I didn't think was possible. Got me to like Watu. In the comics, I'm always like, he's intervened a couple times, but it's like, he's just kind of has a whack costume with a big goofy head.
I love Watu. He's cool.
In this
I love his baby face.
In this one, I was like, oh shit! Like,
you're a super wise space baby.
And in this episode, I was like, oh, I kind of like this character now. Yeah. Like, I like what they did. So
also, I love that his voice is Jeffrey Wright, who just has like the most soothing voice ever.
He's kind of up there with like.
He's going to be
the voice of God. What's his name?
Morgan Freeman.
Morgan Freeman.
Yeah, he's going to be this generation's Morgan Freeman. I'm calling it right now. Like, voiceover work in 20 years is going to be all Jeffrey Wright.
I buy it.
Yeah, I'm totally down.
But this episode was good. Watch it. I know Cody doesn't care too much, but
yeah,
hopefully
I'll still watch it. It's just, it's kind of like, I don't know, like Iron Fist, the TV show, where it's like the lowest of my priorities.
You know what was sad about Iron Fist? I really liked the ending of the second season. I liked the relationship between him and I don't remember if they were cousins, but the villain who was one of the villains.
The rich kids.
Yeah. I liked
I forget their last name.
How they started to get along in the end. And then when they showed him with the fucking Iron Fist guns, I'm like, okay, yeah. I want to see where this shit goes. And then
no. Canceled AF.
Like, you finally got to a point where I care enough where I want another season, and then canceled.
Yeah. Well, one thing that's funny, we've already talked about Shang-Chi quite a bit, but it's funny. I've watched a couple videos online that kind of, put the two of them next to each other. I'm like, God damn, Iron Fist was terrible at fighting. Like, the choreography was just so bad, and the filming of it was so bad. I feel like they just really dropped the ball. And I don't know.
Well, they rushed it. So they rushed his training. He only had like 3 months training.
He had like 3 months training. And then the choreography for the fights were like, they were like fixing stuff day of. And they're like, okay, instead of that, why don't you do like a somersault kick? He's like, I don't know how to do that. They're like, just do it and we'll cut around it. And so, and I don't know exactly whose fault that is. Like, it's hard to imagine Marvel Studios being like, hey, no more money for you. Like, it's hard imagining that because they're interested in making quality programming. So is it the director or is it what's his name? The Knight of Flowers, Iron Fist. Like, is it the actor not wanting to do it?
I always feel when it comes to things like that, it's usually production where they're like, okay, we have this timeline and you just need to make it work.
Right.
So when you get non-artist people getting involved in that kind of stuff, I feel like that's where it usually fucks up.
But that just seems strange from Marvel because they're normally...
Well, it was Netflix, so...
But it was still Marvel Studios.
Yeah.
So it's interesting and...
I could imagine it was Netflix saying we need it by this time,
right?
And maybe
right,
Marvel
right.
like, well, that's not enough time. And they're like, we'll figure that shit out because we already said it was coming out by this time.
Right. It's possible for sure. Definitely some. It was done dirty. Iron Fist is a cool character.
It also had to suffer from Daredevil being so great with the fighting scenes.
Oh fuck yeah!
So like it's tough.
I mean, what they should have done is they should have just done those same fight scenes, but with the Iron Fist costume on. And be like, that's fine. I like that. Just put it in a different hallway. I'm 100% down. But also, Daredevil's more of like a brutal like fighter guy. He's in it to win it, with Iron Fist like waves his arms around and shit. But yeah, it's just it is a bummer that one never got its due, and we'll probably we might see a redone Iron Fist eventually.
I think it's going to be a while.
I feel like he could show up in like Shang-Chi 2 or 3 kind of thing as like a team up type thing. I think they'll recast.
Oh, for sure.
They'll recast and do a brief origin story. They're like, we know you didn't watch the Netflix one. No one did. Yeah. I hope we get more of him and Luke Cage for that matter.
I feel more secure in Daredevil showing up somewhere.
Oh, for sure.
Just because people are still doing the save Daredevil. Like those hardcore fans, they're still out there. They're still trying to get it going.
Again, aside from Avengers, the first one, and then maybe Captain America Winter Soldier, aside from those, and Endgame. I'll throw out Endgame. Aside from those 3 Marvel properties, which are crazy huge ones, Daredevil is my favorite Marvel
it was great.
Studios thing. It was so good.
The one with the Punisher was
chef's kiss.
They're back and forth of their reasoning.
When he has him tied up on the rooftop.
Yeah, and it's they're both making great points. I'm like, dude, I don't know which side I agree with more. Like both of these guys are making great points. Daredevil saying no one is beyond redemption, everyone should give it a chance, and Punisher no, this fucking guy who you thought was gonna redeem himself went out and committed more fucking crimes. You cannot fix this.
Yeah, if you lie down with dogs, you wake up with fleas. Just fucking owning them. I love it so much. Minor to confession. I've actually been playing a lot of board games lately.
Yeah?
Yeah, I've been getting into it, man.
Pandemic? What are you playing?
So here's a couple that I've played so far. One that I'm really into, Munchkin, which is really, really fun.
I've seen that box. That would have been my first choice. Is it because the characters look like you?
So I didn't play normal Munchkin. First, I played Rick and Morty Munchkin. Okay. Which it's all the characters from Rick and Morty, and so kind of for those of you who don't know, it's kind of like a super watered down dungeon battle system kind of thing where. You're trying to get to level 10. You level up by beating monsters and drawing cards that give you powers and stuff like that. And so on your turn, you have to open this door and try to fight do whatever the card says. If you fight a monster, you have to have equipment and weapons and armor and stuff that helps you fight it. And otherwise, it could be something that you could pull a card that gives you a new class upgrade or a different weapon or a piece of armor or some sort of instant ability kind of thing. And so as you go through, the monsters can get harder and harder and harder. So sometimes you have to team up with other people playing and be like, hey, if you help me beat this, I'll give you some of the treasure. And if, there's a treasure deck too. And once you beat the monster, you get to pull 1, 2, or 4 treasures. And
can you lie and not share backstab? I'm not sharing shit.
I mean, I guess you could, but that's not really intended. But you can be devious where if you're in a situation where you're going to lose to this monster and lose a bunch of your gear or lose a level or whatever, the guy could be like, look, you have to give me all the treasure and I'll help you. Kill this monster. And be like, oh, fuck. And then there are things that once you get to the last couple levels, there are cards that screw over other players where you're trying to prevent them from winning so you can win, you know? So like one card I remember was like you just straight up trade all your equipment and your character with someone, so including their level. So this guy was level 9 and I was like level 3 because I had been fucked several times. And so I was just like, I'm going to play this card. Give me your level 9 card, please. And you're level 3 now. Enjoy that.
Wow.
Fuck you. Yeah, so it's pretty fun.
It sounds like a cross between Dungeons and Dragons and like Mario Kart. I feel I feel like that's the blue shell. Where
exactly. You just fuck someone up. It's really fun. So I've been playing the Rick and Morty one, but I recently just picked up the Warhammer 40K one, which I'm very excited to play.
Nice.
And it lends itself to like having different versions like that. I think there is a Marvel one, if I'm not mistaken, too, because essentially there's classes, which can be like in Rick and Morty, you can be a parent, a mad scientist, an alien, different things like that. And then in Warhammer 40K, it's like, oh, you can be an orc, an Eldar, a space marine, whatever.
I wonder if you can be in Rick and Morty, the blue guys. I forgot what they were called.
Mr. Meeseeks?
Yeah.
Hi, Mr. Meeseeks, look at me. Yeah. He's definitely on the cards. Like every single character from that show is in it. And then there's like certain cards that like deal with each other. Like in Rick and Morty, for instance, there's Bird Person and what's his wife's name? Tiffany or whatever.
I don't remember.
It's like you can only play Tiffany if you also have Bird Person as an ally. And so you gain like allies and stuff like that that make you stronger. So really, really fun. I suggest everyone try Munchkin out. You can pick up any version of it, and there's expansions and things like that. I'd say pick up one that has something you're interested in. Rick and Morty one is really fun because all the artwork is like legit Rick and Morty stuff, where the 40K one, it's all goofy and like cartoony kind of thing, but it's still 40K, which is cool.
There've been the missed opportunity where they could have sold more miniatures. Like you have to get the miniatures.
Don't get me started on that. I'm like, I buy this box and this one was that one is kind of different because in the Rick and Morty one, everyone has a place card with a character on it, and those characters give you special abilities. This one doesn't have that. So on the Rick and Morty one, to keep track of your level, you just have a little marker that moves up from 1 to 10. In the Warhammer 40K, you have a game board, and there's like a snaking thing that leads you from level 1 to 10. Mm-hmm. And instead of having fucking miniatures, they have little cardboard square cutouts. I'm like, this is some bullshit. Games Workshop, how did you let this happen?
Yeah, missed opportunity.
How did you not capitalize on this and make Munchkin miniatures?
Yeah, hire me. I just threw that out there as a freebie.
Fuck. For a company that's all about money, like they seem to really fuck that one up. So I'm going to make my own.
There you go.
I'm going to have color-coded ones that are, that I keep inside the box. So, yeah, I know. I was thinking the same thing, Christian. The other board game that is really sick that I've only played once so far, but I'm already like jonesing to play it again, is called Who Goes There?
Who Goes There?
Who Goes There? It's based off of John Carpenter's The Thing.
Oh, nice.
So I'm sure you're already enticed by it.
Yes.
But what's cool about it is you play, I think it's up to 6 players, I think is the maximum. And you're all working to get out of the Arctic research station, right? Mm-hmm. You're working to try to get to the helicopter to escape. And you're trying not to get infected by the fucking thing. And eventually, like there's like there's different like day and night cycles where you're like, okay, this is day 1. We have to go, everyone goes through their turn. Once you make it through that, you move to day 2, 3, 4, whatever, until you get to the end. It's not days. I think they're more like hours because there's only one sleep cycle per like 4 or 5 or something. Anyway, each character has their own special abilities. I played the dog handler.
He dies, man.
Like they all fucking die, Christian, for the most part. But he's cool because there are miniatures, which is awesome, first of all. And he has a little dog one that you can unlock eventually. So then you can, him and the dog can like sleep together. So you don't have to bunk with any of the other ones. And if you bunk with someone, you have the chance of getting infected at night kind of thing. Because they come down and like eat you or whatever. And so there's also these things that show your infected status. So after a while, if you've had encounters with the thing, if you want to make a trade to somebody, you hand them this little slider thing and they look at it to see if you're infected. And if you're infected, now they are infected. And so it's a big secret the whole time. You're trying to figure out who is infected, who's not infected. And then you try to get to the end where the helicopter comes to pick you up. And you have to have so many, like, so much helicopter fuel and maps or whatever the fuck to make sure you successfully escape. But if you successfully escape and one of the people's infected, the infected guy wins.
Yeah,
because he got away. It's super fun.
It sounds similar to the game I have, but it's called The Thing. Only
right.
It's you have missions you have to accomplish. So you have to go to each room and accomplish a mission, and one person is playing as the Thing.
Gotcha.
So your job is to hide and infect other people, and you can try to sabotage the mission, but if you obviously get caught,
right,
then they know.
Well, that's what's so fun, because I remember that game. I think we played it at one point.
Yeah,
because I remember you bringing it, and I remember checking it out. And but one thing that's really cool about this one is that you start off and you're all humans, just like in the movie, right? And the infection happens in secret. And then you just have to kind of deal with that. So we fucking lucked out in our game that we played because 2 guys got infected, but they died because of some, there's like event cards that happen once around. They the boiler blew up and killed both of them. And the last 2 guys alive were me and this other guy. And we're like, I don't know. I don't trust you. I'm like, I got all the helicopter fuel. You can't make it off this island without me. And he's like, all right, let's fucking do it. And we got out. We're like, we're both not infected. I was like, those 2 fuckers were. It was great. I will say the miniatures look fucking awesome.
So you're going to paint them?
I asked my friend, and he did not seem excited about it. I'm like, dude, I can make these look fucking sick.
Just buy your own version and paint them.
I looked into that, Christian. The game is $180.
Oh, never mind.
It was a Kickstarter game, so I'm sure eventually it will become a little cheaper. But man, it was really fun. It's called Who Goes There.
It's a Kickstarter. So you can't buy it right now unless you invested in it.
I don't know, because I found it online. I don't know if that's people selling their copy of it or what. You know what I mean? Because a lot of those board game Kickstarters, it'll be like there's a tier where it's like, hey, you're a game star, buy 10 of them and we'll give you a good deal or whatever. But yeah, I'm getting really into these board games, man. I'm excited, and the only problem is I tried to look for similar games. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to pay $180 for this game that I played once, right? That's a little much. But what if I could find a similar game that has a similar play style or whatever? Because I'd be really into that, preferably with miniatures, but if not, it's not a big deal. And I don't know enough board game lingo.
You should check out, what was it called? I think it's Mansion of Madness. You might like that one. What's cool about it is each play is different because you're mapping out the building as you play along.
Oh, interesting.
So it's because if it was one layout and then you played it once, where you kind of know where everything is.
Right.
That one's kind of cool because each person has sanity levels or bravery levels. So if there's something that's I don't know, semi-scary, the chicken shit one may not survive, but they could, or they could go insane, or they could be fast enough to get out. But that one might be one that, and there's different versions of that one too.
I'll have to check that one out. There's also I remember,
and I may have got the name wrong. Whoever's listening.
I remember one of our listeners, Spencer, my buddy from San Jose. I think he was talking about Blood Rage. I think it's called, or maybe it's just Rage. That game was supposed to be cool, and I'm it's funny because I was always of the mind where I'm a super complicated board game. Who's got the time to figure that out? But the Who Goes There was really it's pretty complicated to play it the first time. We're all figuring shit out.
Yeah.
You have each turn you have so many actions you can do, and then you have stamina marker, and then you unlock equipment pieces, and you have your own deck. You have the like 3 or 4 community decks. There's a lot of shit that goes into it.
I'm terrible at those reading the rules. I have to have someone else like, all right, someone else read it and just tell me how we play. I'm not good at that stuff.
That was what was so funny is my friend Alex was the one who he had the game, and he's like, don't worry guys, I've played this before. And he's like going through, he's like, how did this happen? I'm like, oh, okay, so you've like played it one time and you didn't reread the thing. So eventually we were all kind of reading it together. And though I will say, like, after one game, like I've totally, like, you know, figured it out, and now like I'd be comfortable playing it again without having to read the thing. You know what I mean?
Nice.
But I will say, on a game like that, it's important to, especially when you have characters like that, where each character has a different deck of their own. It's important to kind of know what's in that deck, like at least like page through it, because, you know, perfect example. I was getting fucked because I could never find any food. And there's a food cycle where you have to eat it. You have to eat food. Otherwise you get a vulnerable card, which is when you have the chance of becoming infected. So I was like, God damn it. You know, I'm like, I can't find canned food. I'm looking at all these draw piles and not finding any. And then I start pulling from my own character deck, and like one of the first ones was like canned food. I'm like, God damn it!
You had it with you the whole time.
I had one of them the whole time.
It was in your bag of holding. You just didn't check.
And because he's a dog handler, like I unlocked this dice that you can roll once around that gives you 1 bonus. And I would always get food for my dog because you have to food for the dog. I'm like, can't I eat the dog biscuits?
I mean, technically you can, but then you're taking nutrition from the dog.
Yeah, well, fuck the dog, man. I need to get out of here alive. But yeah. If you guys have any good suggestions for good board games, one that I really want to check out is called Wingspan. It's all about fucking birds, where you're like, oh,
I thought it was gonna be like Top Gun. That's what you were about.
Oh, dude, the Top Gun game looks fucking sick too. But I want one of these. Like I'm getting this hunger for like these really overly complicated ones now. That
see, and again, like I have a bunch at my place that we haven't played because I don't like reading the rules. I'm just waiting for someone else to like. Pandemic I bought and haven't played it just because it seems complicated.
Is Pandemic one of those legacy games where like as you play through it one time, like you're putting stickers on certain stuff, so it's like it was really only good for one playthrough?
I don't think so because I don't know. I can't tell you for certain because we haven't played it, but it seems cool. It got great ratings, and it's just I was like, fuck. I'm really
interested in playing because I've heard of that game. And I've heard really good things. I've heard of Zombicide. It's supposed to be a pretty good one. Which has miniatures. Everyone who paints Zombicide miniatures and posts them online, though, do trash jobs painting.
Ooh, yeah. Fucking shots fired.
I've noticed I've become really like
snob,
like a miniature painting snob. I got called out on it the other day by my buddy when we were playing that game. I'm like, let me paint these fucking things. I'll make them look hella sick. Don't worry. And my buddy's like, I was like, I noticed that I mentioned Zombicide and how everyone who paints Zombicide zombies like paint them like trash.
And he was like, I painted him.
They just. He's like, what did they just douse him in like wash and just be like, oh, look how cool it is. I'm like, yeah, just like I just dip it in this wash and they're like, oh, look at the contrast. I'm like, no, it's all just one color now, you fucking plebes. And we just.
I'm sorry, you what?
Plebes.
What's the plebe?
Like a plebeian, like a fucking dumb. Yeah.
Is that a mini?
You're acting like a real plebe right now.
Is that like a mini lingo?
No, it's like high society, high snobbery.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that was a pretty funny thing. I'm like, he's like, oh, someone knows how to paint non-metallic gold now, and he thinks he's better than everyone else. Like, yeah, you're right, I do. Alrighty. Well, we're going to take a quick little break, and then when we come back, we're going to talk about some of the most disappointing video games we have ever played. We'll be right back. And we're back. So, we're going to talk a little bit about video games that disappointed us. Newer games that just didn't meet our expectations. And there's a reason why I brought this topic up. And it has nothing to do with Cyberpunk 2077. Which
we've talked about it.
We've talked about ad nauseum. That's on the list. It's unofficially on the list. So, but we won't spend a lot of time talking about it. But one thing I've noticed recently is that a lot of video games that I end up buying nowadays, I'll play for like maybe a day or two, and then I just like lose interest. And I feel like that never used to happen to me. It used to be, you know, oh shit, the new Halo game's coming out. I play that shit for 3 months straight until I beat it, and then the next game comes out, and then I play that game constantly. And I feel like it's been a more common occurrence where I get a game, I play it for a little bit, and then I'm just like, this sucks. I don't like it. And then I just turn it off. And I'm like, well, that was $60 down the drain.
I guess I'll go back to Destiny or...
Yeah, exactly. I'll go back to playing something like Apex Legends, Destiny, or Call of Duty, where it's like, at least there's an online thing that you can play. It's different because you're playing different people. You know what I mean? So I'll start it off with a fairly recent one that I feel like you probably feel the same way. Is Returnal.
Yes.
Yeah. So Returnal, for those of you who don't remember, is a roguelike game, meaning every time you die, you lose all your stuff and go back to the beginning, and you're essentially trying to build up and go through one perfect run where you go from start to finish and beat the entire game. And there are some little checkpoint type things, like each stage has its own boss, and once you beat that boss, you don't have to beat that again. But if you die, you still go all the way back to the beginning and have to continue through. And it was just like, it looked great. Like all the cinematics and stuff looked amazing.
No, and the opening scene too was very promising. It's just it just wasn't.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a great idea, badly executed. Like it was a cool idea of like, you know, you die, you got to start all over. But it's like, can you imagine? And I think you said it happened to you. Like you're getting super close to the end, you die, and then you got to redo all that shit. You're not gonna redo it. You're gonna turn off the fucking system, and you're just gonna be like, I'll do this some other day.
Exactly. I think a good game makes you keep wanting to play. Where that one is like, oh well, I just fucking died. There's no point in starting another 45-minute like run just to try to get to the same spot. So I'm going to quit. And then one of those times, shortly after I bought it, I quit and never came back to it. You know, I'd say you know, a game that's doing it better is Deathloop. So far, I have not gotten tired of that one. Though I did take a slight break to play this other game that came out. Kina and the Bridge of Spirits is very good. You should check out.
I'm thinking about it.
It's only $40.
All right.
Yeah, it's fucking great. Super cute little forest creatures. I love it. But Deathloop is kind of like that, where if you die, you go back to the beginning. But what's cool about Deathloop is eventually you unlock like a substance that lets you like power up certain guns that lets you keep it through the loop. So it's still similar where you have to go back to the beginning and start a new day each time, but eventually you can upgrade weapons and powers and stuff that you can keep, and so there is a sense of progress.
I do like the soundtrack.
Dude, it's so good. And the voice acting is amazing. It's fucking great. And the multiplayer idea is fucking amazing. What's another game for you, Christian?
Before I get started, if you guys hear snoring in the background, producer Rick.
Yeah, he's a little tuckered out. It's okay.
All you know, it's a series that I loved, and I'm really bummed out that like the new ones I didn't like. The Marvel vs. Capcom, the new ones, because the original ones were so fucking great. 1 and 2 were amazing, and just the next generation ones, just I don't know, like it something was lost. Like the magic that was in it in the original ones just wasn't there. I just remember like some of the characters were very clunky or very slow, and I feel like they took away a lot of the combos, was what made the game amazing. Was really bummed out by those. Because I love them, and now like my brother actually sent me and Cody a text message. They might just remaster Marvel vs. Capcom 2. I'm like, yes, do that, reskin it, and just
do like a very updated like cells or slightly 3D or whatever, but with the same engine and mechanics.
With the same mechanics, with the same like physics in it. Like that's kind of what I'm looking forward to. But I was really bummed out by those.
Yeah,
but like maybe it's on trend where you're saying where Capcom has been dropping the ball on a lot of shit.
Dude, fucking Capcom, like. I'll keep this rant short, but I feel like they hate their fans. Like, because in the same vein, another game for me was Street Fighter V. Like, when I remember when Street Fighter 4 came out, and that game was fucking awesome. Me and my buddies, we would go to San Jose State and like just drop.
What were the new characters in that one?
That was,
now they're starting to blend for me.
Sure. So that one had Rufus, who was the big guy who would spin around.
The guy with the bandana.
Bandana. No, he was like a German dude with like a mustache and a really fat face. He looked kind of like the blueberry girl from Willy Wonka.
Oh, the biker guy.
Yeah, he's kind of a biker guy, I think.
Okay.
And then they also had
that was with the French guy. Was there like a French grappler or something?
Yes, Abel.
Yes,
Abel,
okay,
the French grappler. Yeah. And
I was trying really hard.
I mean,
to master that guy.
I play as fucking like Ken and Ryu and Akuma in all of those games. So I mean, the new characters I don't even pay attention to. But yes, you're right. It was that one. And there were some really good characters in it as well.
I really liked Ken and Ryu's teacher. Like
Goken. Yeah.
I wanted to get really good with him.
Yeah, he was sick for sure. And then like that one also had like Fei Long and some of the classic ones. So that game was awesome. Like we would go to the arcade and spend money and spend hours just playing each other back and forth. And then, eventually came out on consoles and you could play it there too. And then Street Fighter V comes out and it's like the same fucking game.
Was that the one with like the Turkish oily guy?
I think he might have been in that one. I think he might have been introduced in that one.
The guy who like greased himself up so to do the soup or whatever.
Right. Yeah, I think he was in 5. I'm not 100% sure.
That guy would have done really well here in San Francisco.
Yeah, of course. Folsom Street Fair just happened. But the problem with Street Fighter V was at first it comes out and it's online only. There is no story mode to Street Fighter. You can't play through all the characters to the end and fight a boss.
Even though it wasn't like the biggest thing, it was kind of cool. Like at the end, you see everyone's personal little ending and stuff.
Right, exactly. Like and it's like you don't need to put like hardly any work in to make that. You know what I mean? You put one little cutscene at the end, or maybe one at the beginning, and that's it. And then you're just using the game mechanics that are already in there with like a predetermined list of fighters that you're fighting.
Yeah.
Like it takes zero effort. I will say the Mortal Kombat games have done a really good job of a story mode, making it compelling and making you use the different characters and stuff.
I feel like was it Injustice that started doing that first?
Yes, I think Injustice might have been the first one. It might have been the Mortal Kombat right before that one, but I'd say that company Neversoft, I think is that.
Yeah, I think so.
Or NetherRealm or whatever. Those guys have done a really good job. I don't even care if they had that in Street Fighter. I just want to be able to fight through all the things getting progressively harder.
Yeah.
They didn't do that. That was a free release like 3 months later. And the online was just so shitty. You just go in there and get low kicked by Ryu until you die. And I'm like, well, this fucking sucks. So that was a real letdown for me. Much like Marvel vs. Capcom, whatever that one was called, Fight the Future or whatever.
Yeah.
It just, care. I don't know. Like it was one of those ones we had waited so long to get, and then it came out and it was just a lackluster.
Like, this is what you did with all that time?
Right, exactly. And that's what made Street Fighter V so much worse, is that it was literally like the same game. There was no different mechanics. There was no different, like there was a couple characters that were different, but like all the animations and stuff looked like exactly the same. It was very, very frustrating. Another one for me was No Man's Sky. Do you remember that one?
No.
Okay, so No Man's Sky, much like Cyberpunk, back in the day during like an E3 reveal, No Man's Sky was touted as being like a game or a world-changing video game, where the idea is that you would you're a traveling space adventurer guy, and you would be traveling to different planets through different systems and solar systems, right? Each planet you go to would be randomly generated, like procedurally generated from like an AI programming or whatever, right? So every planet you go to would be different. And the planets that would be different from your game to your friend's game to so-and-so's game. Like someone would go to a jungle planet. This guy would go to an ice planet. This guy would go to, whatever, lava planet. And you would like collect resources, do bounties, unlock like secrets, go on adventures and stuff like that, right? And then it was also hinted that you'd be able to visit your other friends' like planets in their bases that they've set up and things like that. And there was supposedly like it was hard to get to the end of the game because you could just keep exploring forever. And I was like, dude, that sounds really cool. It sounds like Star Trek the game. Like you're just going to different
I think I've heard about this. What it was just kind of like the new places weren't all that different from
No, they weren't. Like it would be like, hey, this planet's blue. Yeah, this one's red.
I remember hearing about this game.
And then you go and you're like, oh, let me drill some rocks. Oh, I got 40 rocks. And then you're like, I need more space to hold these rocks. Well, it costs 60 plutoniums to get more space for rocks. Like, well, I got to go find some plutoniums. And you go, you're like, I found the plutoniums. Now I got more space for the rocks. I'm going to put the rocks in there. I've got enough rocks for a new ship. The new ship has more space. And it's like, it's a resource management game. And like the enemies were stupid and all the planets felt very empty and you couldn't go to your friends' planets or anything like that. And it was just such a letdown. Now I've not gone back to that game, but I've heard that they've come up with like some big giant DLC updates for free that have fixed it and made it more interesting. Mm-hmm. But I just remember I was like
burn me once,
Yeah, and 100%. And going back to Cyberpunk briefly, like the people don't realize how much trust that you have to have in a game to go back to a game like that. Like people who got burned on Cyberpunk, like it doesn't matter what CD Projekt Red does, like they might never go back to a Witcher game ever. Who knows?
Right.
And same thing with No Man's Sky, which was a more a smaller studio. So like hopefully other studios learn from this and don't release these like shitty games because like even though I liked the idea of No Man's Sky, I got burned so bad when it first came out. I'll never go back.
For sure.
Yeah. But I heard it is better. So if you've played it, let us know. What's another one for you? Got another one?
The Avengers Game.
Ooh. Yes.
So that one where
Square Enix's Avengers Game. The mass multiplayer online.
It was just like you could have made it great. Like you had a great franchise, you have a great character, you have all these people that are following. And it's just like the mechanics of it wasn't great, the physics wasn't great, how they handled the Hulk.
Character design looked awful.
Yeah, the character design was pretty bad. How the Hulk was handled, like where he can be defeated by like robots, like they should have if you're gonna put a character like the Hulk, you really have to figure out something else to do with him.
Right. We were talking last episode or the episode before when they announced the Wolverine game, like.
Oh, but this one. So that was one thing I was gonna get into. Is like when it comes to a Marvel game, like now I'm just so set up. It's probably gonna be bad. Like that's usually where my mind goes. And then what changed my mind was the Spider-Man
games.
So I was like, okay, this was fucking amazing. This is what the level of the caliber that they have to put it on. Like that, I said was probably the top PS4 game. I would say easily like number one spot. So now that company's doing Wolverine. So that's one I'm like, all right, I trust it.
Right.
This company, like
what I was kind of getting at though, like when you're doing a character like the Hulk or Wolverine or Superman, characters that literally cannot die, basically, it's very hard to make a video game out of it. And so when someone like Square Enix just throws a Hulk skin on and gives them some, ground pound moves, but those moves don't feel any stronger than Captain America's punches.
Not at all.
Or, he gets taken down by a little flying robot that you weren't paying attention to just as easily as, Hawkeye or whoever. It doesn't feel real or authentic.
There was one good Hulk game, and I think it was on the Dreamcast, and I can't remember the name.
Yeah, it was for the Ang Lee Incredible Hulk movie. Hulk Ultimate Destruction.
Was that the one?
That was the one where you could literally like jump around and throw tanks and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't know if it was the Ang Lee one, but that game was actually good.
Oh, it might have been around the same time.
Yeah, that game was good. That game was fun, and I didn't feel like, oh, okay, like, because you would have to be taken out by a huge army, and then I was like, all right, this feels like something that maybe would give Hulk a hard time.
Yeah, I think...
and then eventually I think the Abomination, I think it was actually Devil Hulk, too, that you would fight. But I was like, yeah, okay, you're putting in these villains that would give him a fucking hard time.
Exactly. Yeah, I think when it came to the Avengers game, and I have some friends, my friend Joel, I think, from the Pex Pals podcast. If you like Apex Legends, check them out wherever podcasts are and on YouTube. But I think he still goes back and plays the Avengers game. I'm like, what do you do in that game?
I don't know. I know they brought in Black Panther, which is like
they brought in a bunch of people. Like there's a couple, both Hawkeyes, like female Kate Bishop and Clint Barton are both in it. I think Spider-Man is supposed to be in it. Black Panther.
I'm not going to go.
I just don't give a shit.
Yeah, I'm not going to go into so they can ruin
like
Spider-Man for me.
I don't care, like what characters you throw in there. If I'm still playing the same 4 shitty levels, killing the same aim, faceless aim robots, like I just don't care. I will say the campaign mode on that game, when you're going through like the story mode as Miss Marvel, when she's finding Tony Stark and finding Bruce Banner and trying to reassemble the Avengers, like that was super fun.
The story was okay. I actually enjoyed.
It was short, but it was
short.
It was okay.
Like Miss Marvel being a kid amongst these like established heroes,
right? Being like a fan of like the Avengers, but then being kind of pulled into their world and having to assemble them, or like when you're trying to find Tony Stark and he has like half of an Iron Man suit, because he's like, I don't know, he didn't have all the parts, and so you're collecting like one jet boot and one repulsor ray, and he's like walking around in a t-shirt, and you can kind of only do short little hops and not fly.
I was actually kind of okay.
Fun.
Yeah, that part was okay. It was kind of I actually enjoyed that, where it's like, all right, you're very like, and you have enemies that are kind of weak. I'm like, all right, it's at an okay level because you don't have a full fucking suit. But if you're getting shot at and you don't have armor and he's supposed to live through it, like, okay, well that's a little different.
Yeah. I think it just wasn't handled correctly. And then like they're trying to make this MMO where you're getting new like legendary loot and whatever. But like the legendary loot, yes, it gives you other effects and powers, but it doesn't change your appearance. You just have to buy new suits if you want to unlock a suit. And that seemed like such a missed opportunity, because like the whole point of like playing one of those games is being able to play as one of your favorite heroes and like upgrade them and make them better. But it's like, oh, I got this purple thing that instead of regular punches, I have laser punches. It's just like, oh, well, that's not any
See,
fun.
and that game is what actually, like, right away, my gut reaction when I saw the Midnight Suns, I'm like, no, thank you. Outside of seeing the character designs.
And the same thing with Guardians of the Galaxy. Like, I'm getting very bad vibes from that.
Oh, already, yeah.
Yeah, the character design is one of those things where, like, when Spider-Man PS4 came out and they showed Spider-Man, I'm like, oh, fuck, this looks great.
Yeah.
Like, it looks like Spider-Man. It's not Spider-Man from the movies necessarily.
No, but it looks like...
But it is Spider-Man.
Yeah.
It looks like Peter Parker. It looks like Spider-Man. When Miles Morales comes out, like, even better, I'd say, because he had, like, legit the Supreme Spider-Man or the Miles Morales Spider-Man suit. It looks so good. And then that one came out, and I remember when they showed it off in E3 or whatever, or, like...
The Guardians?
No, even the Avengers one.
Oh.
But the Guardians too. But even the Avengers one, when they first showed it, and they showed Black Widow and Captain America, and even Tony Stark, and I'm just like, ugh.
The only one that looked that I was like, okay, I like the way it looks, and it looks similar to what I would think was Bruce Banner.
Bruce Banner looked fine. The Hulk looked fine, but Captain America looked like, I don't know, real bad.
And he kind of sounded like Keanu Reeves, which was a little weird.
Maybe, yeah, I don't know. And the Iron Man, that guy was doing like his best Robert Downey Jr. impression, and it wasn't great.
It wasn't there.
I thought Ms. Marvel looked good.
Yeah, well, we
don't have a movie version of her. But compared to the comic books, like I bought it. You know what I mean? But like the Captain America didn't look like Captain America from the comics.
Also, like
his shield looked too small.
And you don't probably like one of the characters that people want to play the most, and you don't get him till towards the end of the game.
Right. Exactly. I know he's literally my favorite character, and I couldn't play as him forever. It's just such a disappointment. That was a really tough one. And and then we see Guardians of the Galaxy, and it looks like hell. Like I think was it you who were like, well, I think Groot and Rocket Raccoon look pretty good. I'm like, yeah, it's a fucking tree and a raccoon.
That was me. I was like, yeah, it's fair. It's kind of hard to mess those up.
It's kind of hard to mess it up. Everyone else looks like crazy. I'm still going to play it because I'm a Marvel shill, and
I'm gonna wait to see what people say.
Yeah, don't worry, I'll tell you.
Yeah, because
Christian, don't buy this.
The Avengers one burned me too bad.
Yeah. Now, one thing that gives me hope for Guardians is I think Square Enix can do a good job with a story mode if they want to, and I don't think this is a online multiplayer one for Guardians. I think it's just the story mode, if I'm not mistaken.
And you can only play as Star-Lord.
Yeah, that's fucking stupid. he literally has jet boots and laser guns, and that's it.
And he's smart. Somewhat.
No, he's not. He's just one of those guys who's kind of roguish and manages to get out of things. I think. Let's see. I should have maybe one more.
If you don't, I have another one.
Why don't you go and I'll see if I can figure out one.
Now this is a little tough because I did play it. I did enjoy it, but I felt cheated in a sense. Days Gone, the zombie one, just because I remember for a long time they were promoting it, and it made it seem like you can set up booby traps and manage big hordes of zombies like by yourself, and that's what kind of sold me on it. It was really cool, but in the actual gameplay, it's like, no, you can't really do that. You need small little hordes. But I remember like in the previews, like he would be chased what looked like thousands, and he's like letting off like
you're
gadgets.
You're like setting up a tripwire real quick, and then they walk into it.
Yeah, and then
because I remember that, I'm like, oh my god, this is going to be the zombie game to change all zombies.
Yeah, and then like you see him go on top, and he's like shooting a bunch of them, like then changing the magazine, and some start climbing on top, and he manages down and trips another trap. And I was like, oh dude, like that seems like Home Alone with fucking zombies. That seems kind of cool, but the actual gameplay wasn't really like that. So I still enjoyed it. It was still a fun game, but I still felt like I was duped. Like it was a bait and switch. You sold me on one thing, and I got another thing. But I still enjoyed it. I don't know if I'd go back and replay it, but
yeah, I remember that was one of those games where I started playing it once it got free on PlayStation Plus, and I was like, I got into it, and I was like, I do not care about any of these characters. Like every character I've met so far is a fucking dickhead, and I don't care if this guy lives or dies. I don't care about this guy's brother. Like everyone's an asshole. And then also it's like supposed to take place like 1 or 2 years after the zombie apocalypse. But meanwhile, like people have created their own religions and shit like that. I'm like, how quickly do you think all this happened?
I don't know, man. I don't know. I've never followed Scientology, but I feel like that shit came up pretty quick.
It did come up pretty quick. Yeah.
Also the gas. I was like, dude, that's it? I'm out of gas? Yeah. Like now I have to fucking go find a can?
Yeah, we need to find a freaking crotch rocket. And because these Harley Davidsons get like, 4 miles to the gallon.
Which is weird because they're like, oh, it's 7 miles away. And they're like, you might have enough gas. I might have enough gas. I have a full fucking tank.
Yeah. Motorcycles get like 40 miles to the gallon. Like, I should be able to put like a fifth of whiskey in there and be able to get 7 miles.
Like, all right, well, I'm going downhill, so I'm not going to gas it. Oh, shit, there's a fucking saber-toothed fucking zombie thing coming at me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I did not care for that game. I think the last big one for me, and this one hurts. This one hurts so much. Kingdom Hearts 3.
I was going to mention that, but I was like, I don't feel like I have a right being there. I never played the original ones.
I loved Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 so much. And I've waited so long to play Kingdom Hearts 3. And it was one of those things where when it finally came out, I was super excited. And I download it and I start playing it. And I'm just like, oh, no. What did they do to me? It just... And I haven't gone back and tried to finish it. Which I still want to do, but the problem with it is that all the special moves are like too, like you unlock these special summon moves way too often, so they don't feel special. So it's like oh Jesus Christ! In the same fight, I've done the fucking teacups thing like a million times.
And I feel like a game that it was amazing, and it feels weird saying critiquing, but. That's one of the things that the first Final Fantasy VII suffered, were like the summons, where you would do them too often, they would take too long, and like
right. I don't want to watch a cutscene just to get through this one dude, and that's what it was. Is like they would pop up like every 15 seconds kind of thing, and I'm like, this is not special, and the story got. And I knew the story was going to be weird and convoluted because they had already started getting that way in 2, And I even played some of the Nintendo DS or maybe it was Game Boy Advance games, and they were just like, it was too weird and out there. Like the story got way crazy. And I knew that was going to be a problem, but I didn't care. And you start going back to some of the same worlds you went to in the first games. I'm like, dude, you had like 15 years to come up with, like, do a fucking Star Wars land, you know, go to fucking, like Marvel land or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, let me go to Tatooine with a lightsaber keyblade. You own everything. Why am I still going back to Alice in Wonderland? You know what I mean? I don't give two shits about Alice in Wonderland.
We're trying to hit the nostalgia, man.
Yeah.
They missed.
They're like, oh, here we're in Tangled Land. I'm like, what about Frozen? I want to build a snowman.
Should have hired you, Cody.
Yeah. I think they did go to Frozen. I'm not 100% sure. I could be wrong, but I don't think they did. Though I do feel like Olaf was in that game. I can't, who knows? I just know I was very disappointed in it, and I'll still go back and finish it one day. But it's one of those ones that
No, you won't.
I probably won't. Just like I'll never go back to Final Fantasy VII Remake.
That one you should finish. That was really good.
I just got stuck, and I got bored.
There was I don't think the next part came out, but there's like a mini something that came out.
Yeah, where you play as Yuffie.
But like, so I couldn't transfer my old game into the new one, into my PS5. And like when I got the 7, it's like I have to start over. I'm like, fuck.
Yeah, I heard there's some convoluted way of doing it. You might check.
But I think I might have, I don't know. I think I might have deleted from my external hard drive.
That's rough.
Yeah, so I'm just going to have to fucking play it all over again, man.
Yeah, fuck that for sure. Well,
I enjoyed it. I don't mind.
Let us know down in the comments, what are some of your most let down, disappointing video games? And maybe we'll do like a movie version of this too, maybe in a week or two. But let us know which ones burned you. Which was it? No Man's Sky, Cyberpunk 2077, or Marvel's Avengers? Let us know. We appreciate you guys listening every week. Make sure you like and subscribe. That really helps us out, and we do love seeing that. And if you want to support the show, make sure to check out patreon.com/nerdswithfriends. You can help support the show, get us things like mic cables or
rent,
lights and stuff, rent, that sort of stuff. We do appreciate it. And we appreciate your comments too. Even if you don't give us money, we just like hearing from you.
But you can still give us money.
I mean, yeah, either one's fine. And we do appreciate the patrons who already give us money. You guys make this show extra special. Your names are floating above us right now as we raise you into the heavens. Christian, at least you never let me down.
Oh, that's like the nicest thing.
Most of the time.
And then he had to follow up with that.
Till you open your mouth.
I open my fucking mouth.
But yeah.
It's like, I like you best when you're sleeping.
Exactly. You look so peaceful. To all the nerds out there, remember, you're not alone. You're with friends. This is Nerds with Friends. Thank you and good night.